Hello!
Hello, AOS fans!
It's the Agents of Wyrdhollow.
Wyrdhollow.
In this video, we're going to quickly run through Ephilim the Unknowable and her Pandaemonium, just to talk through some of the cards, talk about the things we like about them, any thoughts we have about them initially, and just generally give you our point of view. This warband has a plot card. Ooh. We've not had a plot card in ages.
Don't get those too often.
Not for warbands, no. There's only 3 now in total. The interesting thing about this one is it kicks in at the start of every round, and it makes you do a set of sort of actions depending on how many changes you've got, which are your little demony things. It also points out that your changes can't have attack action upgrades either, which sucks a little bit. And basically you go through all your changes, whichever ones you've got alive, you can then inspire one, second step is stagger one, third step is to give someone a guard token, and the fourth step is to then push someone a hex, which in the first round you obviously can do them all, in later rounds maybe less of them. And it can be quite interesting to know that you can immediately inspire somebody, and then you can put someone on guard, which can make some of them, they have to be different ones, but everybody when they inspire goes up to 2 dodge, and Kindlefinger starts on 2 dodge, and so is Ephilim as well, although she or he or it is not affected by this initial round stuff. So you know you're going to put someone on 2 dodge from 1, and you're going to be able to put someone on guard as well, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, it's quite nice, and you do have to make some tactical decisions about where you want to set out your fighters and where you're going to put them, because it's in a specific order. And if you lose a fighter too early, then you can lose some of the better...
You lose the push, or you lose the guard, and you're ending up with a stagger and an inspire, which you want the inspire, but The
stagger second, isn't it? And I think that's a really interesting and good choice on behalf of GW. It's kind of like, well, I'm going to have to do something bad to one fighter, and I'm pretty much always going to have to do it.
Yeah.
So I really quite like that.
And the other ones, if you can plan ahead enough, and I failed to do it in our games that we played, but if you're thinking enough steps ahead, that push can be really handy for some of the other things going on in your deck. So I really like that as a plot card.
You're going to have to practice a little bit. And I have to say, the guard is incredibly useful for you particularly in our first game.
Yes, especially if you put on Kindlefinger, who's got 2 dodge.
Yeah.
Looking at the fighters, Ephilim is a level 1 wizard, but if she's within 3 hexes of 2 or more changes, she becomes level 2, or she gets +1 level. And when inspired, she goes up to level 2. And so she'll be a level 3.
And she is pretty much always in within 2.
Yeah.
Within 2. Or
unless things have gone bad.
Yeah, and especially with putting Kindlefinger on guard, it's very hard to shift and just keep him close, and she stays on 2 or 3 wizard level, which is pretty handy.
There's a lot of different stats. I'm not going to go through them all because they've all got loads of stuff going on, but a few really interesting points is, like I say, they all go to 2 dodge when inspired if they don't start on 2 dodge. Kindlefinger's attack does +1 damage if they're next to him, so he does 2 swirlies, 2 damage, and he also has a -1 damage ability. So whilst he only has 2 wounds, you've effectively got a 3 wound hit him to take him out.
And if he's on guard,
if he's on guard,
so
that gets a lot trickier.
And you're basically thinking, well, I'm not going to go after Kindlefinger now.
Yeah, exactly. When Ephilim's inspired, her attack is range 4 anyway, her spell attack, but that does also do 2 damage whether she's inspired or not. But she has a nice reaction when other changes are taken out that she can draw a power card, which is a nice little bit of draw tech there.
That's a good thing to forget.
Yeah. Spawnmore's great. He's move 5 and he's your general charge in and bite people sort of fighter, so there's nothing too clever about him, but he does still have a range attack, and his damage goes up to 3 if he's attacking a large target.
And 3 swords 2 damage, 3 swords 3 damage is very good.
Flamespuler has his interesting attack, which is when he hits someone with a successful attack, people who are in adjacent hexes get a warp counter, which does a wound at the beginning of the next round. So, and that's everyone, not just enemy fighters. So he could potentially start doing a lot of damage to his fighters. But that's a nice extra damage to potentially splash around on a lot of other people. The only other really interesting thing I think is Apatrax the Inspired, which is like the living Zinch symbol. He does +1 damage if he has no move or charge tokens, and he also has a hypnotise ability, which enables you to push a chosen fighter up to 2 hexes closer. And so, well, they have to end up adjacent to him, but that then kind of sets you up for his lamprey attack, which when inspired would be doing 3 damage.
It's a nice synergy. And can he only do that when he's inspired, or?
No, he can do that either which way.
Okay.
So if you can combine that, the lamprey attack with the push at the very start with the plot card, you could possibly be in a position where you might be next to somebody.
Straight away.
Yeah, with a 3, and when he's uninspired, he does 2 hammers 2 damage. So that could be 2 hammers 3 damage.
Which is Stormcast levels of goodness.
It's not too bad at all.
Off the bat.
They've all got ranged attacks except 1, which is the lamprey, and they've all got some abilities to ping away at people there, which is really nice.
That's also a good ability because it pulls people out of position.
Yeah.
So if somebody's got onto an objective to do something and you pull them off of it, or they
Yeah.
Just even or just pulling somebody deep into your own half that could really mess them up.
Yeah, that. So I like that little disruptive tactic there. Of their objectives, they've got quite a few really nice ones. I think they total about 17 glory across all the cards, which isn't a bad ceiling. They have a lot of hold objective cards.
Stormcoven, actually.
Yeah, so that's nice and balanced. Yeah. They have a lot of hold objective cards. I think they've got about a third of their deck is hold objectives cards.
Right.
They've basically got a Surge Supremacy, holds 3 objectives for 2 glory. They've got one about holding objectives that add up to 9. Which gives you some glory.
Very Zinchian.
Very Zinchian,
I would say quite hard to score.
Possibly,
Unless
but there are,
lucky. I mean, if you get five
cards to help you.
5 and 4 in your half,
yeah,
it's quite hard to score.
Well, there is a ploy that enables you to swap 2 objectives over. So if you've got a rubbishy like one, score 1, objective 1 or 2 in there, and you can pull 5 in potentially. So that you've got that to help you.
You've got to have them both in your hand at the same time.
Yes, and you've also got things about holding more objectives than your opponent and having your leader hold an objective. So they've got quite a heavy hold objective style, but I think seeing as most of them have range attacks, that kind of figures in with that.
It's good having some warbands that have that kind of stuff going on now, because it means that if you're an out-and-out fighty warband, you have to think about those objectives, standing on an objective or wondering where the objectives are, just because if you don't, your opponent could net glory without you really doing very much.
Yeah. They've got a few objectives in there around dealing damage or taking people out with a changer or doing things like that. And they've also, unsurprisingly, got a lot of cards around casting spells as well. They've got about 5 cards that have something to do with spells. There's one where you score a glory if you take someone out of action with a spell attack action or with the warping counters that Flame Spuler dishes out. So there's a possibility to score that one. There's another few around casting a spell, 1 or more spells, and also making a range 1 attack. Which is Ineffable Capering. Arcane Mastery is just basically scroll immediately after the second or subsequent spell cast. I mean, that could be quite easy considering the number of spells you might be throwing around. And there's a really easy one, Callous Manipulator, which is a Surge, which is a friendly changer was taken out of action in that step. So it's basically, you kill one of my guys, if I've got that in hand, I'll score a glory.
It's like Martyred, but guaranteed.
Basically, or 2 or more friendly changes are staggered, so you automatically stagger one at the beginning of your first round if you've got that in hand.
So it's an either or, is it?
Yeah, it's an either or. So you've got multiple ways of scoring some of these, which is gives you a lot of options there, and they've got a lot of different things they could be doing. So their objectives are pretty nice.
So you can actually calculated risk that.
You could, yeah.
I'm going to move through a stagger hex. A stagger hex?
Oh, look.
Why are you doing that?
Why could you be doing that, I wonder?
Oh, fantastic. I'm so glad we brought that back into the game.
Their power cards, they've got a lot of weird, funky stuff going on. One of their probably most important ones is Summon Abomination, which is, if you cast it, it's a spell, and on a lightning you can place a friendly changer out of action back on a hex.
That's a solid card.
Very nice card to have. You've got things like Shared Mutation, which is 2 lightnings, but if you cast it, you can basically deal 1 damage to each enemy fighter adjacent to 1 or more friendly fighters. If you're in amongst a big horde warband, that could be devastating.
Yeah, or even with the Lamprey ability, if you've got 1 card near you and you can pull the other one in.
Yeah, so that's really nice. There's a few in there that are a bit more fiddly. There's things like Grand Scheming, where you can stagger each fighter with 1 or more charge tokens, so that could give you some options if your opponent's up in your face.
Although that's kind of one of those cards that's like seems powerful at the end of the round, but then there's no use.
Yeah, because you can't charge as much, You've got some in there that give you things like Cleave and +1 damage, which is nice, which is extra teeth. You've got Bolt of Tzeentch, which is a 1 lightning to cast, and if you cast it, you choose an enemy fighter within 4 hexes and deal 1 damage and stagger them, which is quite nice. A range 4.
That's like a really mega decent spell.
Considering her attack is range 4 as well.
Stormcast one. It's better because that was focus.
Yes,
That was better.
And this is just 1 lightning. So, and then you've got also Field of Change, which is nice. It's a 1 lightning spell that if you can cast it, you can re-roll 1 dice in your defense rolls for 4 friendly fighters for the rest of that round.
Oh, I mean, you played that and I was like, oh, what?
Yeah, it's a very nice card. Yeah. And then you've got the Will of the Architect, which is being able to pick 2 feature tokens and swap them.
Is that their things that they leave to their relatives after they've died?
Sort of, but no.
Is it making them, I'm going to build this and you're not going to stop me?
Out of all the cards, they've got about 4 spell cards, which I think's still pretty heavy considering they just have 1 caster. The leader, Ephilim, is the only spellcaster.
You can at least now get rid of them with salvage. But that said, I think if Ephilim dies,
you're effed.
Yeah, but they've still got some potency.
They have.
And the plot still works. You don't need to have Ephilim alive to make the plot work, do you? So you can still, it's just the changes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that still happens.
They have So I'm going slightly out of turn now, but they have a slightly janky problem with their inspiration, don't they? Where if you don't get the cards in the right order, if things die in the wrong order, it can get a bit nasty.
Yes, I didn't cover that, but I probably should. The Ephilim only inspires if 2 or more surviving friendly fighters are inspired, and all the rest of your fighters only inspire effectively by using the plot card at the very start, or if all other friendly fighters are inspired. So if you're down to 2 of your changes and neither are inspired, the chances are you're not going to inspire Ephilim.
So from an attacking them point of view, you want to try and go after the inspired fighter, because then you're basically trying to catch up all the time.
Exactly that. So there's no other way to inspire them either in this deck. Right. So that's the only way you can inspire, which means Ephilim will never inspire round 1. No. She will only ever inspire at the beginning of round 2 at the very earliest. But if things go badly wrong for you, she may never inspire at all. Yeah. Going on to the upgrades for them, they've got some funky ones in. They've got an illusion card in here, which basically gives -1 dice from enemy fighters' attack actions to a minimum of 1 whilst targeting the fighter, but it's an illusion, so it doesn't cost you any glory, which isn't too bad.
But it disappears presumably after they've been attacked.
It does, yes.
Dealt damage. So.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's quite good because it's harder to deal damage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I noticed that there are a few cards in it that are leader only, and there's quite a few that are changer only.
Right.
And there is one that is caster only, which is weird because your leader's your only caster, so they might as well just make that the leader card.
So they've got leader only cards and caster only cards. Maybe there might be cards that make you a caster.
Possibly in the Nemesis deck, could be quite funky. Their upgrades aren't great because none of them can take weapon upgrades, right. Which is going to limit you with any deck that you might mix them with. There's some nice cards in there, things that allow you to reroll casting rolls like Arch Sorcerer. Too Many Moors gives your fighter Grievous 1, which you're probably always going to give to Spore Moor to really up his damage. Yeah. There's a few in there to help push people around. Writhing Tentacles is quite a nice one as well, which is you can use after an activation step in which the fight was dealt damage, and you can either heal 1 to that fighter or push the fighter 1 hex to either get him out of the way or just to keep healing them back up again.
Can you keep doing that each turn?
Yes, that's reaction after an activation step. So
that's pretty good because
if you only do 1 damage to the fighter, you just heal it back up again. 1 damage, heal it back up.
There's a similar card, but it's I can't remember where I was reading it now, but it was destroy it after you've used it.
So that one stays on. There's a few other average cards, and there's Spiteful Mouths is one where you can use this when a fighter is the target of an attack. After the determined success step, if the fighter's defense roll contains 1 or more successes or critical successes, the attacker is within 2 hexes, you can deal 1 damage to them.
I literally have no idea what that card does. It does 1 damage under an awful lot of complicated circumstances, is what I remember.
It basically, if you roll a success or a critical success, it does 1 damage to the opponent, which is a bit like Galligan's defense thing from the Guardians.
That's an upgrade as well.
That's an upgrade,
Can you keep using it?
Yes, again, that doesn't get destroyed. So there's a few in there that could add some ping damage. Yeah. And there's Aura of Mutability, which gives +1 dice to attack actions made by friendly fighters when they're within 2 hexes of your leader. You're going to be keeping them near your leader anyway. Yeah. I think playing with the deck itself, you're going to be sitting possibly near the back of your board and going for trying to hold 3 objectives.
Trying to lure people in.
Exactly, whilst blasting them from range with some spells and then doing all kinds of craziness. So I think this warband, I want to say they're fragile because they're mostly 2 and 3 wound fighters, but they get to 2 dodge very quickly, and you can usually have at least 1 on guard at the start of a round, means they actually can be quite tough to take out. Yeah. I do feel like they're the kind of warband you're going to want to keep together, keep them near your leader. Maybe with Fearsome Fortress or something like that, they might do quite nicely. I'm not sure how many other decks I'd want to try and take these with. The spellcasting deck, definitely I'd like to try them out with.
It'd be quite interesting to see how
and maybe a mix with the Toxic Terrors, possibly. I don't think I'd Tooth and Claw them. They've got too many fighters really for that, and they're also quite weak. They're not very punchy.
It's very hard to get them all inspired. Oh yeah, those ones where you need them all savage.
Exactly.
Interestingly, with the Lamprey ability, it might make you choose a board with a lethal hex on, because you could sit the lamp in behind it and then pull people into it. Which would be quite tasty. Yeah, so I'm liking. There's a lot of disruption going on with this warband. There's a lot of funky stuff here. The ability to put them on guard, inspire them at the start, and Ephilim's ranged 4 2 damaged attack is just a very nice attack. Thank you very much. It is very nice. It is like every time we did it, I was like, what? Really?
There's also one upgrade that I completely
Because he can roll
forgot.
3. He can roll. It can roll 3 spell dice. It's a
They
spell attack.
can get up to 3
Yeah,
spell
yeah,
dice
yeah.
if they're inspired, because they become a level 2 wizard. So
Yeah.
yeah, it could be 3
It
dice,
is
2 damage.
Tasty. I mean, you run an increased risk of getting double crits, but I get those, not you. So
Yeah, that's true.
You should be fine.
And there's one upgrade in here, which is a weapon upgrade that I forgot to mention, which is the Fires of Change. Now, I haven't had a chance to play this card yet, but it looks lovely, because this is the one which is restricted to a caster, which you can put on your leader.
Yeah.
It's a range 4, 3 sword, 2 damage attack, which is on its own not bad. But it has a reaction, which is use this during the attack action after the deal damage step. For each fighter within 1 hex of the target, you can either deal 1 damage to the fighter or heal 1 to that fighter. So if you've got a big scrum going on in the middle and your leader can start blasting away at people, you could be doing a lot of splash damage to everyone else, while also healing your own guys. I think overall this warband does have the chance to be quite brittle, because a lot of them start on 1 dodge, so you've got to be clever with your upgrades, with your inspirations, and you're putting people on guard and stuff. But I think if you're playing a canny game and you stick near the back of the board early, they could be quite
Playing
nasty.
a candy game, so not one for us then.
No, not one for me, especially. So, but I think they're going to be a very interesting warband. They're going to mix things up quite a bit.
I definitely think, if you haven't seen it yet, go check out our Domatan overview as well. I definitely think both of these warbands are like next level design
Tricksiness,
space.
yeah.
Well, tricksiness, yes. I mean, I don't think they're for a beginner, but they've opened up all sorts of new and interesting design space avenues.
Yes.
Which is a very nice place to live. And I'm really interested to see what the community do with them that we can copy and then
Pretend we did it.
Yeah.
We did it first, yeah.
Yeah.
So please do let us know in the comments below what you're looking forward to with this warband, what upgrades or power cards you think are going to be OP. And let us know what you're enjoying about this warband or what you're not enjoying about this warband.
Yes, and if you enjoyed the video, please do like and subscribe.
Don't forget to ring that bell.
Ring that bell. And if you have a few spare pennies in your pocket, then you could consider supporting us on Patreon. I was trying to think of a P word to support, and I couldn't think of one. Otherwise, we'll see you soon somewhere in the Wyrdhollow.